Okay, all right, looks like we're ready to go here. Okay, so I am just going to open up the file here. And I guess I need to get a cable here up on the screen. Yeah, laptop. Okay, just a moment here if we'll have it up. There we go. Okay, good. Okay, so this will be up on YouTube now. It's actually being live streamed up there, so I'll send you the link by email after class. Okay, so we are in the 3D view. And so now it says go to the Structure tab, and we're going to use the Beam tool. And so it says we are going to use the 5.5 by 15 wood beam from the type selector. So folks, this is the type selector here at the top of the properties palette. And we're going to choose the 5.5 by 15 beam. It's already sized, so you don't have to do anything but use it. Okay, on the options bar, so up here, choose 3D snapping and draw the 4 beams as shown spanning the length of the building. So 3D snapping, so we go from the top of the post here to the other side, and then we do it for the others as well. So we're just going from the outside posts to the outside posts. There. Now, it says to select all of the beams, and in the properties palette set the start extension and end extension to 4 feet. So these are the non-structural extensions of the beam, so they will go beyond the posts. So I'm just going to hit escape a couple of times, so I'm back in modify mode. And holding down the control key, I'm going to select all of these beams. Okay, so there's all the different beams there. So now it is the start extension and the end extension down here. Give them 4 feet for each. And remember in Revit, if you don't specify a unit and you're working in imperial, it's always feet that Revit uses. Check the boxes for notch end 1 and notch end 2. So that's these ones here. So these are the custom voids that are in these beams to notch back the end. So you can see what it did here. It notched those beams back. So there's before and there's after. And again, if you want to know how these beams work in a little bit more detail, just email me and I'll walk you through it. Okay, now it says go to the south elevation view. So we're going to double click on the south elevation. And here we are. Now you'll notice that the roof is appearing here. Reason being that in this view the roof category was turned off so that we could draw the beams in without something being in the way. In the south elevation it says right click on one of the beams and choose select all instances in the project. So this is going to grab all of these beams so that they are selected. Step 3, move the beams upward by their entire depth so that they sit on the columns rather than being embedded in them. So folks, the columns come up to my cursor here, but the beams are now set down too far. So you should have been able to select all the beams now, and now we're going to use the move tool. So watch carefully here. I'm going to move them from the bottom of the beam to the top of the beam. So there's the first click, from the bottom up, 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 up to the top. And so now what we've done is we've moved the beams so that they are sitting on top of the columns. Let me just turn shading on here. So the beams were embedded into columns and now they're sitting on top of them. Now, I should go back to the south elevation. That's where I'm supposed to be. And we are at step 4. Use the architecture set command. So we're going to set our work plane. And we're going to set it to grid D. It's already there. And we're going to add the beams now that we want here underneath our roof. So basically the rafters for supporting the roof. Now, there's our beam command, and Revit says that we want 2-inch by 10-inch full sawn beams. So instead of the 5.5 by 15 members before, we're going for 2 by 10 full sawn. Ensure that 3D snapping is unchecked. And here's the reason for that. If this was checked, Revit might snap anywhere in 3D space on this roof object. We don't want Revit to do that. So we've unchecked 3D snapping. And away we go. Now, I've had this before here where it doesn't want to snap to anything. So I'm just going to draw one here and see if it'll, yeah, no, see, isn't that funny? I drew the one beam, maybe you folks will notice this too, and now I can snap. So when I first got started in this view, when I fired up the beam command, Revit wouldn't snap to anything. So if you just draw one beam, and then you start drawing another beam, Revit will now snap and everything works. So the idea is we've got chain enabled. We're going to go up to the peak, and then we're going to immediately come down the other side down to the eaves. And this is what you should get. 2 beams that are mitered nicely at the peak. Now, once that's done, we are going to notch, we want the eaves to be notched back. So I'm not sure which one it's going to be. Not when, no, it's got to be. So in this case, on the left-hand side, it's notch end 2 that has to be checked, and on the right-hand side, it's notch end 1 that has to be checked. That is what you should be seeing on your screen here. Now, if you don't get this sorted out here, I can help you after we're done here, because I'm just going to continue just so we can record this video right through to the end. Okay, so step 5, enter the underside of beam's ceiling plan. So what this is doing is it's looking upwards at the structure. So there's the beams that we added earlier, and here's the rafters we just added a second ago. So there's the one of it there, and here's the one on the other side. So I just held down the control key so I could pick them both. Select both beams and use the copy command and copy upwards 5 copies at 6-foot increments. So here's the 2 beams. I'm going to use the copy tool. So I'm in the underside of beams ceiling plan, and here we go. Copying upwards 5 copies, 6-foot increments. Now when you're copying, you don't need to really sort of pick any specific point. You just need to start somewhere and make sure you're going straight upwards. So 5 copies, 6-foot increments. So I'll put in 6, enter, 6, enter. So there's the, I'm not sure what happened there. Let's keep going. 6. So there's the 3rd copy. Oh, I didn't have multiple turned on. 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more. 5 copies. So this is what you're going to end up with. And if you're looking at it in 3D, you would get this. Okay, so that gets our beams going up here. Now, we'll go over to page 9. Now we're going to add the valley beams. Page 9, step 6. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab first of all, I'm going to grab the set work plane command. And what I want to do is pick one of these roof planes, because I'm going to draw a beam right down the valley here, and I want to draw right on the underside of my roof plane. So this is the roof decking that you can see that's spanning from rafter to rafter. So I hit pick a plane, hit OK, and then I choose which plane, whether it's the one on the right here, and you can see the blue boundary around it, or the left one. So here I'll start on the right hand side and click. So again, set work plane, choose pick a plane, hit OK, and then choose either the left or the right, and you'll see the blue boundary around the roof object telling you which one you're going to be choosing. Now, when I use the beam tool, I'm still using this 2x10, but instead of just drawing anywhere, I'm actually drawing it tight to the underside of this roof object. So I'm going to start right up here at the peak, and I'm going to come down the valley. Now, because of the view range, I'm not actually seeing the edge of the roof. What you're seeing here, this little gray zone, is where the cut plane for this view is trimming off the bottom of my roof, so I can't quite see it. So I'm going to use SE, the keyboard shortcut for snap endpoint. I'm going to put my cursor right on the roof here, and you can see right when I get to the valley, I get a snap point that's kind of out in space, just like that. Now there's another snap point here which is at the top of the roof. I don't want that. I want the one that's at the underside of my valley here, which is the one right in the corner, and you'll be right on that 45, so you'll know when you've got to the right spot. There. Now, the reason that you're seeing this 2x10 on a funky angle like that is because Revit is putting that thing so that it is, the top of my 2x10 is right on the underside of the deck. It's not orienting it vertically. So what I got to do is in the orientation here, switch it from normal to horizontal. Or in this case, it's going to make it go vertically. So now you'll see what happened there. That rafter is now going vertically, but it's still being drawn down the valley here in my roof. So if I go back and look at it in 3D, you can see that that rafter is where we want it to be. So just got to draw the one on the other side. Same process, set work plane, but this time we pick the other side. There we go. You could, yeah, you might be able to mirror it, yeah. So again, I'm going to start from the peak. Now this guy's in the way, so I'm just going to use snap endpoint. So there's the peak. Come down to the edge. Hover over the valley, SE for snap endpoint, and there's the other one. Same thing, select it, and then got to switch it back to horizontal. And now I've got it so they're at both sides. So now, unfortunately at this point, Revit does not do a nice job of mitering these two rafters that are together, coming together at the peak there. So that's about as good as it gets. Now, what we're going to do to finish this off is indeed mirror the rest of this business. So I'm just going to hold down the Control key, and I'm picking all the rafters we copied in the first step. So there's the 6 pairs of rafters, or is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Am I missing one? I'm not. No, I think that's got it. And then I'll control click the rafters in the valley as well. So they're all there now. So now I can use the mirror command to mirror them over to the other side. And now those ones are done. And finally, when with those ones having still being selected, I'll control click and pick my originals again here. And I'm going to mirror on a 45-degree angle, so now that they're all the structure is going to be in place. No, these ones, when I mirrored them, they're already selected. And then I just control picked these ones down at the bottom so that basically, oh, you're right, I missed some. Good eyes. Okay, so you can see all that structure is selected now. So now when I do the mirror, I'm going to mirror it on a 45-degree angle from the corner, and that will do the rest. So this is what you're going to end up with. Now you're right, it's a bit of a mess in the middle here, but that's just the way it goes. Oh, and it looks like I've got too many here. Oh, look what it did. It actually clean mirrored these two. Nice. Okay, but I've got 2 extras here that I don't need. So that's kind of as good as it gets with your structural modeling, but one of the main points of that exercise was to show you folks how you can apply structure to the underside of a roof object by using the set work plane tool. Okay, so when you are done with that one, I'm just going to check the notes here. You will hand this in as your last name dash framing exercise in your share in folder, but you can do that next week. Okay, so that's it for tonight. So next week we'll talk about massing and how we can use it to solve all kinds of other design problems in Revit.